right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. One of our favorite guys is Coach Yak, and Coach Yak says the Niners ought to go and try to trade for Patrick Surtain, the Denver corner who is phenomenal, a true shutdown corner. And I've expressed the need that the 49ers have for a shutdown corner. We'll discuss it all next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue you're going to find. Also, we're brought to you by Marin Autoglass, marinautoglass.com. And this month, we're also brought to you by Sharp Corners, Sports Cards and Collectibles. Give Anthony Catania a call at 831-521-5264, as well as valleyhillroofing.net, 209-481-6851. If you need a great roofer in Northern California, valleyhillroofing.net. The links to both of their websites are in the description below. All right, let's talk a little bit about my buddy Coach Yak, who has a really solid idea, and he's a great football mind. I love having Coach Yak on the show. And he says that he agrees with Bleacher Report, who has named Denver's cornerback Patrick Surtain as a dream acquisition for the 49ers. Who doesn't like Surtain? Why don't we start right there? He's a great player. He truly is a number one corner. The Niners are in need of a number one corner. There's no doubt in my mind. You look at what L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie did to them. You got two guys there that are both kind of number one corners. Sneed on the outside really did a job on Ayuk in the Super Bowl, and McDuffie shut down Deebo Samuel, and the Chiefs won the game. So there's no question that the Niners, who have Demo and Ward, could really use one more shutdown corner. But here's the thing. I don't think it's a good move. It's going to cost the Niners a ton. It's likely going to cost them their first, second, and third round draft choices. I know they have two in the third. But, you can't get a shutdown corner like Surtain for nothing. And the fact of the matter is his base salary is only $1.1 million. That's very reasonable. So that just makes his price tag in a trade that much larger because there's that many more teams that can afford him. So, yeah, he's reasonable on the cap. Yeah, he's exactly the kind of player they need. Don't get me wrong. I'm totally in agreement with Coach Yak on that. But I just don't think, what's out there? I mean, are they going to find a Surtain at 31? Probably not. And even if they did, they may have to go in other directions because of their needs are more severe at offensive tackle and maybe along the defensive line. I'm going to give you some corners that I really like in this draft here at the end. But, and then there's free agency. If you want to sign L'Jarius Sneed, maybe the Niners could go pluck him away from Kansas City, but it would cost a pretty penny. We're talking about $17, $18 million a year, probably at least. Jalen Johnson also is a free agent, the Bears corner. Niners tried to trade for him at the trade deadline. He's going to get paid a ton too. But I would just say the Niners can't do any more shortcuts. There's no shortcutting winning the Super Bowl. You have to do it in the draft. How did the Chiefs get L'Jarius Sneed? The draft. How did the Chiefs get Trent McDuffie? The draft. You can't do shortcuts and just pick off everybody's best player in free agency. It's a cap sport. You have to build through the draft. And the bottom line is, offensive line, especially right tackle, defensive line, are probably bigger priorities right now than that number one corner to go with Mooney and Demo. So I just think that the Niners I don't think they can go trade their first, second, and third round picks for Surtain. I don't think that they can probably afford to go just pick off Sneed or Jalen Johnson in free agency. They're going to have to handicap the draft. They're going to have to find good corners in the draft. And when they pick at 31, Terrion Arnold, who's a tremendous size speed corner for Alabama, he's not going to be on the board. He's going to be gone. I was talking to Samuel Womack about Quinyon Mitchell earlier this year, and Womack was like, man, he's incredible. Yeah, he is. Quinyon Mitchell looked really good in the Senior Bowl. He's got size. He's got speed. Yeah, I think he had 4 picks in one game this year. He's an amazing player. But he's not going to be there. He'll be off the board. Nate Wiggins from Clemson, probably going to be off the board at the end of the first round. Kool-Aid McKinstry from Bama. Doesn't run great, but he's a terrific corner. All 4 of those guys, Arnold, Mitchell, Wiggins, McKinstry, they're probably all going to be off the board by 31. All right, well, who could they get in this draft? And I think it's a really good cornerback draft. I'm gonna give you 3 guys that I love, and then I'm gonna give you a handful of day 3 guys that I would be excited to pick off in the draft. My favorite cornerback in this draft, I love Mitchell a lot. Terrion Arnold's a natural. Love both those guys. But TJ Tampa from Iowa State, who wears number 2, is just dominating. He's 6'2". He's 200 pounds. He's got elite length. We'll see in Indy what he runs, but I think he's going to be in the low 4.4s. He doesn't have a lot of career interceptions, but he's super physical. He can play man-to-man. He can play zone. You need him to play off-man. To me, he's elite in off-man. That's what he's best at. He's great at understanding how to gather wide receivers in space. It's an advanced trait. Not all corners have it. Tampa has it. TJ Tampa. It's a great name, by the way, too. But this guy can play it all. He can play man-to-man. He can play zone. As I said, he's elite in off-man coverage. He went to high school in St. Petersburg, Florida, Lakewood High School. He was an ex-wide receiver, so he's got great ball skills. He runs the route like he expects to catch the ball. He's a high IQ player, but what I love about him is what I love about all football players on the defensive side. This guy will hit you hard. This is a big hitter. And he's got great awareness in zone. He's a high IQ player. As I said, he's elite in off-man coverage, and that's hard to beat. That means that you have to play off and understand exactly the timing of how to gather a wide receiver and then mirror him down the field. It's not an easy trait. TJ Tampa makes it look easy. High IQ player, monster hitter, real good tone setter against the run. So with size, length, and speed. And attitude. Smart player. TJ Tampa. Check him out on film. Awesome. So he's one of my favorites. He will be there at 31 most likely. I don't know that the Niners can afford to draft him there. As I said, they need an offensive tackle. They need defensive line help. But, man, I love TJ Tampa. All right, let's get into a couple other guys that I really love. Enos Rakestraw. Who? Enos Rakestraw from Missouri. A lot of people don't even think he's Missouri's best corner. He played opposite Chris Abrams-Drain. Abrams-Drain played a lot of the off-man and a lot of the zone, and Rakestraw played a lot of the man-to-man. I love him. Ball skills are awesome. Playmaking ability for days. 6 feet, 188 pounds, but sinewy strong, quick feet. He's a redshirt junior. He wasn't really thought of that highly coming out of high school. He was a 3-star guy. And then he missed all of 2021 with a torn ACL. Tore it in October of 21. But then he came back in 2022, and he played great. It was like he had never been hurt. He had 12 PBUs. He only played in 9 games in 2023, but there's a lot to like here. He's got long arms. He's wiry, strong, explosive, fluid hips, great balance, very flexible, and he's experienced. This guy has got experience on the boundary and in the slot. If there's people that question anything about him, it's a little bit of the pure long speed, the vertical speed. Maybe Abrams-Drain's going to run better. We'll see in Indy. But this guy can play press man, and he can play off man as well, but he can play press man corner and really give you a ton. So I love Rakestraw. super skinny. Missouri's got some amazing athletes. This guy just jumps off the page at you, though. And very productive player. Probably will be available on day 2, maybe late day 2 because of the torn ACL, and he didn't play a lot senior year. And, some people think Chris Abrams-Drain, the other corner for Missouri, is even better. But if you watch Missouri, Rakestraw drew the toughest assignments. He's the guy who played press man. Abrams-Drain is the guy who played off man on the other side or zone. Rakestraw, I think, is going to be the better pro than Chris Abrams-Drain. They're both good corners, but Rakestraw is nice. Now, he's a little thin. He may out-hit his body a little bit because he loves to hit, but probably going to be a day 2 guy, late day 2, like third-round pick. All right, one of my favorite corners in the entire draft is Max Melton, the corner from Rutgers. 6 feet, 190. This is Bo Melton's brother, by the way. Bo Melton, who was with Seattle and then finished the year as Green Bay, one of Green Bay's wide receivers. Melton is exactly what I want in a corner. This guy can play the slot, or he can play outside. He can play man-to-man, or he can play zone. He played 12 games this year. He had 3 picks. He's best in off man and zone than in press man. To me, he's more of a zone corner. He's probably going to be there at the end of the 3rd round. I would draft this guy in the 3rd round. Why? Because this guy comes firing up and is super physical against the run. Now, the recovery speed's a little bit of a question mark, but this guy loves to play. 40 career starts. He was only a 3-star coming out of high school. He doesn't, I'll say this too, he doesn't always wrap up. The guy doesn't wrap. He really doesn't. But he will come up in run support and hit you like his life depended on it. I mean, this guy will blow you up. Max Melton, cornerback from Rutgers. Doesn't always wrap up, but what a hitter. The Niners run a lot of zone, so I think he'd be a perfect fit. 6 feet, 190, almost prototypical size. Comes from an athletic family. I mean, both of his parents played collegiately at Rutgers. His dad, I think Gary, played wide receiver for them in the late 80s. His mom played on the women's basketball team. So, and then his brother's in the NFL. So, I mean, the genes are there, but the physicality is just off the charts. And if you want somebody to step up and hit somebody and have a little bit better corner against the run, man, Max Melton is your guy. So I'd be all over him in the draft. All over him. I love Max Melton. Probably in the 3rd round range. Maybe you get lucky. Maybe you get lucky and he's there at the top of the 4th round on day 3. I don't think he's going to get to day 3. I think he's a day 2 guy. He's not going to day 1, and I don't think he makes it to day 3. I think he's a 3rd round pick. So remember those names. TJ Tampa, Enos Rakestraw, and Max Melton. 3 of my favorite corners. It's going to be a whole lot cheaper than trading your first 3 picks for Surtain. That's a little bit more of a projection, but as I said, there are no shortcuts. You got to be able to handicap the draft. All right, what do you say if you don't get those guys? You don't get anybody in the 1st round, and let's say Melton isn't there and Rakestraw's gone. What's the day 3 corner pool look like? It looks great. I'll tell you that right now. Mikey Sainer still, the captain for Michigan. He's small, but he's a damn good player. I had a big pick in the national championship game, 5'10" corner. Really like him. Cam Hart from Notre Dame is the opposite. Big-bodied guy. Notre Dame coaches it up well there. This kid looks good to me. Willie Drew from Virginia State. You don't see a lot of players coming out of Virginia State, but Willie Drew is a big-time corner. Dwight McLaughlin from Arkansas is a good player. Jarvis Brownlee, who played at Louisville. He's the Florida State transfer. Brownlee made a number of good plays. One of my favorite corners in this draft, Renardo Green from Florida State. Love the cockiness and the tenaciousness of Renardo Green. DeAndre Prince, now we're getting late on day 3. Mississippi State. I think he's going to be a player in the NFL. Kamal Haddon, who played at Tennessee, is a good corner. Marcellus Dial, who played at South Carolina, kind of a big corner, physically dominant. He's going to be a day 3 guy. And one other name you got to keep your eye on, Quantez Stiggers, who didn't even play college football last year. He played in the Canadian League for the Argos in Toronto in the CFL. And Stiggers showed up at the Senior Bowl. He looked great, making plays, super confident, very physical. Not an elite athlete on the corner, but, man, he's physical. He might be a safety. He might be an all-pro safety. I mean, Stiggers looks like a playmaker. I'm wondering a little bit about Stiggers as far as, is he have enough athleticism to play in the corner? But, man, he's definitely a player. Definitely a player. He was all CFL as a rookie this year for the Argos. So there you go. I love Coach Yak, and I would love Surtain, but I'm not trading my first, second, and third to get him. And as I just outlined there, give me Max Melton. Give me TJ Tampa. Or I'll wait to day 3, and I'll take a couple of these guys. I'll take Willie Drew and Renardo Green, or Quantez Stiggers and Marcellus Dial. I'll take those guys. I'll take a couple guys on day 3 and see if I can do it with numbers. But there are no shortcuts. And trying to trade for Surtain, you're just going to have to redo his deal in 2025. At that point, you're going to be paying Purdy big money. It would help you this year, and he's cheap for this year. But do you want to drive your team off a cliff? Because you're going to have to let a bunch of guys go because he's going to get paid in a big way in 2025. So I love Coach Yak, but Coach Yak, I would say, you know what? Surtain would be a great option, but I think the price is too steep, and I would rather do it in the draft. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. Thanks to our other sponsors as well. Thanks to all of you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.